Hi everyone, welcome to Rahul and Jayashree Associates and Company. This is our law firm and we also provide entrance preparation at affordable cost for any exam like Judiciary, SSC, UPSC, UGC, NET, banking, railways and etc. at affordable rates. So our point is about rent agreement. Renter agreement. What is renter agreement? Renter agreement is a formal contract like between whom the tenant the who is taking in rent and the landlord means the owner of the property. Why you have to make a rent? First you should ask yourself. And one thing I should like to say, watch the video till the end so that you understand, as because people comment in the comment box without watching the full video. So watch the full video so you'll understand. So rent agreement between landlord and a tenant. We are talking, the talks doesn't make a sense until it is written in a piece of paper so that it can be easily enforceable in the court of law. So rent agreement is a formal contract between a tenant and a landlord about what are the conditions about the contract. Okay, so this is renter agreement. So in renter agreement what happens is that if you make a renter agreement of 12 months, then you have to register that contract. Means renter agreement you have to register. Okay, so if the people will register that, they have to pay the registration charge. So people avoid registration by making 11 months contract. So everywhere you will see that contracts are made, rent agreement is made of 11 months. Why? As because people want to avoid the registration, as because registration charges are taken. So due to avoiding the registration, people makes contracts of 11 months so that they don't have to register a rent agreement. So that is the simple thing. So what will contain in the rent agreement? First of all, names of the tenant and the landlord will be there in the rent agreement. Second is about details of property, like where the property is, the location. You have to state police station, where it falls, post office and etc. That are details of the property we have right in the rent agreement. The most important is the rent amount. How much rent you are paying, that must be stated in the rent agreement. Then payment method. In which payment method you will pay the rent? You will pay by a UPI, whether you will pay in a cash, whether you will pay, so that the methods of payment are there in the payment methods, by which payment methods you will pay the rent agreement to the landlord, so that there will be no problem at all. So in contract every minute thing is mentioned so that there will not be problem. And suppose you have made 11 months contract, and before that if you want to enter out of that contract, means you are leaving that property. So what are the clauses enter for that? What are laws, what are terms and conditions imposed before withdrawing the 11 months contract? That should be mentioned, as because there is a problem. Sometimes landlord says that you have made 11 months contract, I will not leave you. So when you are making a rent agreement, you have to state that what are the things you are giving, so that the tenant can enter out before 11 months. So even you have to state that in the rent agreement, so that it should be clean and conceptually clarities must be there. Okay, so security deposit, how much security deposit you are paying, that must be stated in a rent contract. Of how many months, what is the amount security deposit should be mentioned. Okay, and utilities means facilities. What are the facilities landlords will give you, that all must be give. So for example, he is giving cupboard, he is giving what equipment he is giving in your rent property, so that all must be stated in the utilities, that is facilities. Okay, and the guidelines should be there, like parking is there, then who will use that parking, whether it is a common parking or it is a special parking. Suppose you are having special parking, you should mention where is the parking space, that must be stated in a rent agreement. Okay, and if the animals are kept, then what are the things that animal will be, so suppose that animal bites somebody, then who will be responsible? So all that must be written in the guidelines. and the property, somebody destroys the property, then who will be liable? Tenant will be liable or the landlord will be liable? That must be stated in a contract. Who will repair them? Repairing charge who will pay? Tenant will pay or landlord will pay? That must also be written in the rent agreement. Okay, so these all are your contents of a rent agreement. Next is terms. In terms, you will mention what are durations, for how many months or how many months you are making a contract, whether it is 3 months, 6 months, 11 months. If it is crosses 11 months, you have to register that contract. That's the thing. So duration matters. Deposit matters, how much deposit you are giving to a landlord. Next is term of use, how many times you will use. Okay, whether there is any insurance thing associated with that, if there is any insurance policies of taking care and maintenance, you have to mention that also. Who will repair it? Okay, repairing charges, who will repair the property, we have mentioned. Okay, now we are coming to a Registration Act of 1908. In Registration Act of 1908, what is stated that registration is required for 12 months minimum. You will register a contract if it is for 12 months or longer than that. Okay, so the agreement must be signed in a which paper? A4 size paper? No, not in an A4 size paper. Agreements are made in a stamp paper. Stamp paper. In stamp paper, agreements are made. Okay, so you have to mention that in stamp paper only you will make an agreement. Without stamp paper, it will not be valid. So if it is less than a year, that means if there is a 11-month agreement you are making for a rented property, so in that stamp paper you will make. Okay, so now documents you have to show evidence. So evidence proof must be there. Evidence proof you have to give before registration of contract. That is, you have to show that the evidence is of whom, ownership belong to whom. So that evidence you have to show, so that the rent agreements can be made. Okay, and what will prove that you are the owner of the property? Tax receipt you have to show. Passport size photo you have to give. Address of the witness you have to give in proof, so that who are the address. Aadhaar card is not mandatory, but Aadhaar card is given so that it become more accurate. Okay, and route diagram. Route diagram means by which route the people will go to the property. So that all must be stated in a rent agreement. And some states e-stamping is there. E-stamping means an electronic stamping. So in that, like in stamp paper is there, in some states there is one logo that is known as e-stamp. So e-stamp is issued to some states, not in all states. Some states provides e-stamp facilities. Okay, so where there is e-stamp available, there the people will use e-stamp, not a stamp paper. Okay, so for 12 months contracts where e-stamps are available, in e-stamp you will use e-stamp for that making a agreement, and when agreement are entered into force, that is known as contract. Okay, so basically these are all the rules, and contracts are of two types: long-term rental agreement. In long term, the deposits and conditions are very much bigger, and in lease or business property, that is between the lease or business property, as the name suggests, it is type of business property between a business firm and the landlord, or between the law firm and the landlord. So this all type of business property. So this was all about rental agreement. And subscribe to our channel, like, share so that we'll get your benefit. Okay, and so thank you for listening and watching. Thank you.